We have so many amazing things to tell you, but first off, I want to congratulate Mike McKibben and the team for uh, putting the pizzazz in my skiff. You know, we've been working on the beta version, and thanks to everybody who participated. But the next version that comes out, which I'm using right now with Mike, is just unbelievable. It almost looks like you're emailing someone, but you're not. You're sending them a message that even President Trump and his amazing tech team can never break open. Well, we're going to have more on that in a future show, but right now, I left Douglas home alone for a few hours. I get back, and he has a piece of paper filled with very important notes that he needs to share with you.
Well, yes, and that is just what happened earlier today, and now there's more things happening. We just got the notification that it seems as if what we tipped off Trump and the team to look for a 9 in it as the first digit in anyone's social security number. That means that those are the 22 million that the FBI told all of us a few years ago were illegal aliens, that they know who they are, where they are, they're taxpayers, and they can even get tax returns. And when they reported this a few years ago, I couldn't believe it, but I had calculated actually 44 million. Now we know that it's probably more like 70 or more. But anyway, basically, Trump just said, that's it. Every single illegal alien is
No more benefits.
no benefits. So what's that's going to mean? Either they will hightail it to some place where they can live, or if they start committing crimes, they will be arrested and then deported. So one way or the other, they might as well just go ahead and leave.
Let me just say, if you're in a sanctuary city, you need to be on guard because these people do not have a money flow anymore from the United States government.
You had better be prepared, as we have, and so many others have told you to be prepared. So anyway, and then I'm just watching things on the internet here, and what flies by. Trump saying that no, he now calculates exactly. He's actually calculated more than I have. I've told you how many billions of dollars we've actually spent over there in Ukraine. And the official report before was 177 billion. And Zelensky said that there was, what is it? He's missing, he only got like 75 billion. So half the money's gone. And Trump has talked about that twice. Now, today, he just turns to somebody and is talking about Ukraine in a presser, I believe, and says, no, it's the way that we've got, or he says that I have calculated it is it's 350 billion. Now, people will tell you Trump is stupid because there are no rare earth minerals. He didn't say rare earth minerals. He had a funny term for it, but the point is, what are they talking about? There's one of the largest deposits of lithium there, another one of the largest deposits of graphite, like 10% of the world's titanium. It's all sitting there. So I don't know what they're talking about. So when you hear all this stuff, that's weaponization of the media. Now, he's already gone after them, and I've told you he's first going to try to drain them of all their money. That's as good as clawing back money with Doge. Because why not? Why not use their own evil against them? They tried to break him, bankrupt him, put him in jail. I mean, these are people still screaming against him, and as has just been pointed out to me by my lovely wife here, is that essentially there's a lot of people out there who don't know any of this is going on. They don't know that they found 4.7 trillion fraud. If you don't have a coding for a check that goes to a budget line and who it goes to so that you can follow it, then you don't have a bookkeeping system. So the U.S. Treasury does not have a bookkeeping system. And $4.7 trillion of what you would call fraud. Now, how much of that is this year's? That's what people aren't talking about. And then he goes to where? He goes to the Social Security and says there's 2.7 trillion in fraud. How much of that this year? Don't know. But now that basically this has tipped the scale to say that obviously he's taking the information we're feeding to him and or other whistleblowers inside these services and agencies. saying, oh no, we've known about the fraud. Matter of fact, I've seen a couple of these people come out, even on the internet, and say, yeah, there's a lot of fraud. Why don't you just ask us? We've been told there's nothing. We've made complaints for years and decades, and they do nothing about it. So that's the word for today, is weaponization. Now, you see, they weaponized all of these things against Trump, thinking he was a newbie last time. He was just a beginner at being a ruthless, lying, demonically possessed politician in Washington District of Crime. And so he didn't understand. We actually predicted what would happen to him, that the big forces, one at a time, would walk into his Oval Office and say, you have no power here, so don't act as if you do. There is an agenda. And for him, it was the weaponization of the entire federal government, and basically the Pilgrim Society and what we would call transnationalists, internationalists, people who didn't want nationalism. They didn't want nations to be sovereign. And that means it's a war. And now we're looking at a war that we're seeing battle after battle, and also the strategy of the war plan of Trump looking at this. And when you look at the strategy, you can't stop it. So let me jump to the first item that is so important that people may forget this. You probably saw this on Gabriel's Horn posted, that in fact there's going to be, it looked to me as if it was a meme saying that they wanted this to happen, and it listed all the federal agencies, and you push a button and you go to the latest update from Doge about what they're doing.
It is real, honey. Okay? And you can put your tips there, especially if you work inside the agency and you want to help the government get clean.
Well, that's the whole point. If you don't jump out as a whistleblower now in those agencies, then you're not very intelligent. Okay, so the Doge system, Trump wrote an executive order, gave it down in Mar-a-Lago, and his guy came out and talked about 3 different executive orders. There's so many. I've given up. I'm just waiting for, like the tsunami waves to hit from each one of them. Because these are the biggest things. If a president in my lifetime did one of these things, it would be so shocking that, I actually might believe that the government is not just purely evil. Anyway, so the Doge reporting, you can go now to any agency that they are auditing, find not only the statistics and the overall view, but also down to the detail, because they want you to look at these details so that you can turn in the criminals involved in these frauds. And that's the whole point. Now, instead of electing politicians to D.C., you get to send them to Guantanamo Bay or someplace until they, hang them, kill them, or whatever they wish to do to treasonous traitors. I don't know these days. But the point is there's so many of them that I'm so glad that another thing here that we're going to report on. So anyway, good work on Doge and all these reports. Now they're going to complain that, oh no, it's not as bad as good old Elon said it was. Well, yes, it is, and it's worse. Because remember, they've only just begun. This is a flyover, okay? Remember, he's got 18 months to tell Trump what the real status is. Not even Trump, nor Elon Musk, or anyone except someone who has no faith in the government would be able to predict how much and how bad. Now, we predicted that, of course, when they get to the Pentagon and they actually do an audit, which, by the way, they can't. This is a system of the government that they have old computer systems that don't talk to each other, so that they can still have the ability to control these silos, and that you cannot do metadata analysis of them. Well, that's old hat. Your telephone can do that, okay? I mean, this is ridiculous. So today, I decided, when everybody's talking about gold, I've talked about gold before, but now the rush continues. The reason that the Rothschild gold bullion vault, where the Bank of England keeps its money, and we recently called back about half of what Bank of England had in gold stored there, the reason they are literally now pausing delivery of gold is because they're so busy sending it to the United States. Which means, now people are going to read all kinds of things into this, but it's very simple what it means. If there's going to be movement of gold, then it will be taxed, tariffed, or trumped in some way. So a movement of gold takes a long time, and they don't like to move gold because they like to write paper notes on it. So if you have a paper note and you're trying to cash it in at the Bank of England or anything to do with the Rothschild Gold Bullion Bank, it ain't going to happen. And it's all coming to America. Now, I hadn't noticed that it's gone up to like 204 tons. Okay, guess what that's connected to? There's only one thing that could be connected to. It's not just the tariffs, because, that isn't tariffs. That's if you're bringing in offshore money, and some of it happens to be in gold bullion in the Rothschild Bank in the city of London, where the Bank of England keeps their gold, then you want to get it back into this country and repatriate it before all this stuff hits. That's the point, which indicates to me that they're going to go after offshore accounts. Okay, that's what that tells me. And it not only tells me that, it tells me that when it's not a coincidence, because what Elon Musk is not very intelligent, but he does listen to what people tell him, and then he makes use of that because he's a leverage buyout guy. Okay, he likes to leverage every situation, so he sucks out the information and leverages it. So people told him to look into gold, and so he says, well, let's go to Fort Knox, because he's naive, right? Nobody gets in Fort Knox. Even when they took Munchin in, that was only to a room they had prepared them. And that's maybe the reason that I was just asked why all the pictures of Munchin and McConnell and the other people who were the representatives to go see if the gold was in Fort Knox had black and white pictures. It reminds me of the pictures from the moonwalk. They were staged. But that doesn't matter. The point is that no audit was done, okay? And that was staged. That isn't where they stored the gold. The gold is underground. Those people weren't, no.
They were underground or not?
The way that they describe where the gold is held, and that's 8,104 troy tons of gold, except for the 43.8 tons that are at the U.S. Federal Reserve New York Central Bank holding spot for currency exchange. And then basically, what is this, 16 tons at the two different mints. And then so I calculated it out. The point is, people, all you have to do is take the government statistics and it'll show 50 tons missing. 50 tons missing. Okay, how much are they going to find missing when they open up the doors of Fort Knox? Could be all of it. I don't know.
Well, it looks like we're getting off the IRS subject, and I had a couple of items here too. Now, we had to wait for that corrupt Judge Chutkan to see reality and not move on this restraining order to keep Trump from moving on the federal workforce. That was lifted. She didn't move forward with it. So the IRS is prepared now to lay off employees, and this would be the probation level employees. And I'm looking here by tomorrow. So today is Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday. The IRS will start laying off 6,000 employees. So that's going to happen too with the IRS. A couple of other things at the IRS, the way they've been cheating us. And remember, the reason why they keep anyone from seeing their records and they work on old computers is because this is the heart of the swamp, and where the cheating, the deception, the theft, the fraud, that is really where it's bubbling. Because those illegal aliens were getting benefits. You see, they get an ITIN number or Social Security number through fraudulent methods, and then they can add their dependents. And then they can file for all kinds of benefits. And they get Medicare, Medicaid, they get food stamps, they get even a stipend every month from the government, Social Security. They get more than American citizens who have put in, or even not, but they get more than American citizens. And it's not just for the illegals here in this country, it can extend to their home countries as well. So by stopping all of these payments to illegals, oh my gosh, I think we're going to get a rebate check on our taxes. But then there are two other things. Don't forget, the IRS has been caught that when an employer, and especially small employers, they're filling out their tax form at the end of the year and they have to claim how much Social Security taxes they, as the employer, have to pay Social Security. And so in their tax returns, they will put down the number. Okay, I had to pay $100,000 into Social Security. But what was happening is that the employers realized that the IRS doesn't talk to any other agency, and they didn't talk at this time to Social Security. So they could simply claim on their taxes that they did it, but never pay into Social Security. So there's going to be a huge gap between what businesses say they paid in and what actually has been paid in. And the other are these low-income child credits. I hope the Doge team will look into this. This is a total ripoff. IRS higher-ups have been aware of this issue for a long time, but they will not address it because the bottom line is that's the Democrat voter down there getting all those child credits. Anyway, I didn't want to miss those 3 points as you move on.
Oh, yeah, that was the high points. Going into the Social Security in any detail, which only comes next, and the IRS just fly over that. Look at what they found. Go to the Department of Education, look at what they found. The EPA, the Treasury, and the Fed's on the list, but also today in those 3 executive orders, it was mentioned in one of them that he is now going to audit the SEC. And that's why I say they're going to go after offshore accounts. Because the Securities and Exchange Commission is not only the stock market, it's the hedge funds and all the money leaving this country into hedge funds, i.e. George Soros, Alexander Soros. You can't count that money because none of that money is taxes paid on. It comes from the stock market. It comes in the middle of the year. They take it out of the country because they haven't done their taxes yet. And so then they claim fake losses by having shill companies, and then pretty soon it looks on paper as if they've lost money, and in fact they've taken out billions out of our stock market without paying any taxes into offshore accounts. This is very well known, the Panama Papers, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what that told me. So that means that, really, all these things are weaponized against him, against Trump. They did more FBI examination on Trump and also with the Justice Department than anyone else, probably in American history, so that they even got a Netherlands judge to come to try to, a foreigner, to try Trump after they had audited his books and found something that everybody does in New York, but they're just making an example out of him. Those cases were thrown out. So the weaponization of the Department of Justice is now the issue. They used it on him. He's going to use it on them. He immediately, a week ago, fired 93 federal judges, especially the Manhattan judges and the New York judges, and all the big places where they have federal judges. Federal prosecutors, not judges. Oh, I wish to God it was all the judges. Anyway, he's going after the judges now because he went after the ABA. And remember, these judges are so stupid, they take all their decisions from people who are the head of the attorney general actually determines what punishments people get. And he goes around teaching this to all the judges, right? And that's all through the American Bar Association. So behind the scenes, he doesn't even have to write executive orders. He went after those people, and anyone he can fire that went after him in a total blitzkrieg vengeance fit, which I love, he's going after the people who went after him using the same devices they used on him. Notice all his cases are dropped. He's going after the very judges, the judges that were involved in the impeachment cases. I keep saying judges, I wish. The prosecutors that were involved. So now he basically turned around and fired, I think, total with the other 93, some 200 Biden-appointed bad judges who they go to with these false cases, ex parte, and bring them against Trump and try to challenge his executive orders. All those are failing. All those, when we predicted this all along. And either it's because they just did such a bad job or he knew ahead of time. I don't know. But for sure, they knew none of these cases would hold water, except a couple of the worst cases, the weakest cases, still hold some water, but not much. So anyway, this is the weaponization. He's going after Chuck Schumer for threatening some of the Doge workers, and that's the second time to show that it's a serial offense. He went after Chuck Schumer. There's 2 cases against Chuck Schumer, one for threatening the Supreme Court judges. He's going after the people who do all their work for them. He's going to everything he can possibly do to get rid of any of the support systems of detailees that go to the Supreme Court that actually come from the executive federal system, which is where all the big slush fund is. Anyway, I had a vision the other night of a swamp with alligators upside down with their belly up and a lot of the other ones escaping through this little sluice, this little tiny river. And they were getting out so fast. Well, that's what's happening here. Okay? So, yeah, bye-bye 80,000 Biden warrior troops that were literally they bought guns and ammo for to come after the little people. He said he's going to possibly send a lot of them to the border. He may send a lot of the IRS agents to the border, anyone who can carry a gun. And he has taken all the people who had just been hired because they were provisional and bye-bye. Okay, we talked about the fact that what's happening with gold is absolutely hysterical. And the threat of going to Fort Knox, I think, has people insane because according to the way the stories go, nobody goes in Fort Knox, not even the DOD. Nobody even knows when they open the door if anything's going to be in there because nobody goes in. Nobody reports. Nobody's accountable. Oh, wait, that reminds me of the Nova Scotia money that went down in the tower next to the Twin Towers that had all the gold in it, that when they opened the vault, the largest vault in America, it was all gone. Surprise, surprise. Same thing with the gold in Nova Scotia Bank. Same thing with the Royal Bank of Scotland. Same thing with Shanghai gold market and all this stuff. When it comes to gold, also the Chinese claims of African gold ain't there. British claims of African gold, it ain't there. It's all because they fear Trump is going to say there's going to be a gold standard. No, well, one thing he said for sure, BRICS, you and the people who think that you can create a currency outside of the American dollar, he wrote an executive order about this. Not only did he threaten them all 100% tariff if BRICS goes one step forward trying to crash the U.S. dollar. So where he's going is at some big picture. I'm not sure how big he wants to go, but I say he doesn't have to pay a penny to the Fed. Okay, he doesn't even have to pay about $1 billion we have to pay them a year for them to have one secretary and a person with a phone making up stuff. Okay, so there is so much going on. It is just amazing. So Doge is bringing back so much money that they're talking about a dividend from just the money they claw back and don't spend at the IRS.
Just imagine. We've heard that there may be a total collapse of the IRS. We won't pay income taxes. Our money that run the government, which will be greatly downsized, can easily be supported through tariffs. Imagine your household if you didn't have to pay federal income taxes. Can you imagine how hot this economy will be? Imagine what will happen when people get a refund check, that we actually take our tax money and pay us back instead of the world. Our economy is going to be on fire. Everyone in the world is going to want to do business with America.
Hundreds of billions of dollars being stolen with the IRS's help, the Social Security help, and the U.S. Treasury help, because they're the ones who have the remittance desk that gets a percentage of money sent out of this a country that there's no taxes on, to people who have Social Security numbers in other countries who've never been here. It's called remittance. I don't even want to tell you the numbers. Billions, nobody knows. Okay, that's just a little bit of what's going on. But now I want to make my big point here. My big point is in that third executive order from Mar-a-Lago, snuck right in, you wouldn't have even seen it. They basically empowered the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs and through the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, to take over for Doge, as I told all of everybody. No one wants to hear this. Not one single reporter says this. Doge is temporary. Doge is the flyover. They have to renew all the systems. So anybody who was with the old system is useless. Now, is this the AI takeover of America? There ain't no AI. And the part that there was already was the U.S. Digital Service, which Trump absorbed and now probably turned off the trunk of the U.S. Digital Service that went to Valerie Jarrett, Obama, and Big Mike in their Washington, D.C. house. Okay, so what's going on here, folks, is he's already setting up what's going to have to be. But I doubt when they sat and made their 250 executive orders and other such things at Mar-a-Lago that they thought that it would go this far this fast.
Look, this is important. Look at this headline. It says, Musk mulls over, this is Donald Trump and Musk, the idea of giving a $5,000 refund to the American people. That's amazing. But I want more. Okay? I see how much has been spent out here, and I want it in proportion to the taxes I have paid. Everybody can get $5,000 in the beginning. Everybody will be happy. But if we're going to be doing refunds, it needs to be based on how much taxpayers have put into the system. It's got to be prorated in some way.
Well, I would even go further than that. Now that she gave me the idea, I'll act like it's mine. That we go way, way beyond that. We say, okay, no taxes this year. Okay, no more taxes. Go to a simple sales tax for everybody, including corporations or anyone. Doesn't matter, unless Trump creates a deal with them. Secondly, all the money that was ripped off from you, which is basically all of it, was fraud. Therefore, it's owed back to you. So how many years have you paid in taxes? That's how many years you don't have to pay in taxes. And by that time, there should be no taxes because External Revenue Service will take over bringing in money. Okay? Another thing I wanted to point out is that Trump's big deal with he said this 3 times, and he's just hysterical. He said Zelensky didn't have a seat at the table for peace talks. Why? Because he had 3 years. Don't forget, barely into the war, I predicted that within minutes there's going to be the first peace talks in Belarus. And what happened? First peace talks in Belarus. And I also predicted that Zelensky isn't going to be there for 5 minutes because he said he'd do that so he got the payoff to show that he wanted peace and that it's the Russians who are the aggressors instead of the British working in killing the Belarus southern pipeline and killing the northern pipeline going into Ukraine by blowing it up in Russia and blowing up the power plant that drove it. Okay? So Zelensky went up there and I said he's not even going to go in. He didn't even go into the peace talks. He didn't walk into the room in Belarus. And now he's ready for peace talks and he's mad he's not there. And it's so funny because the part that he hates the worst after he got on his knees the other day begging practically, he wasn't really on his knees, seemed to me he was, that he had a map out of all of his resources because the Democrats, the libtards, all say Trump is wrong. There's no rare earth minerals there. He didn't say that. He said some other weird phrase, which is basically referring to the lithium, the graphene, and the titanium. And so he already knows that he's going to give up land. And so he's out there trying to tell the media after demanding $250 billion right now. He needed a payoff right now before there could be any peace talks. $250 billion. How much did he get? None. He got an old Iron Drone system to protect Kiev. Okay? They haven't even used it, have they? Anyway, the point is that he's not part of the peace talks because he's worse than incidental. He's the CIA puppet. Okay? He's the Pilgrim puppet there. So he doesn't get to come, and there's going to be elections. As a matter of fact, they have to have the elections. They have to have a ceasefire, then elections, and then peace talks. They have to get that little pornographic punk out of there. So I laugh about that. Then the last thing I'm going to say is, okay, all this matters not if you take a bunch of jabs that kill you. J.D. Vance and Elon Musk. You want to tell us you're smart? You ain't smart at all. How long haven't you known that since the 70s everyone's been screaming what is in all of those things? So you know it's right. I can't keep up. And I've actually given up. I just have to stand back and wonder and say, if what is said by the Trump administration is followed through on, we may have regained our sovereignty.